What are we doing here, B? What the fuck are we doing here? So Chinny Boy asks the boys on the pod, the old poddy pod, did you ever come first place in a sporting event? So of course Bryan Callen can't help himself, right? He starts riffing about all his achievements, what he did as a kid when he came to the States. I was a judo champion, I was this, that and the other. And then he ends by saying I was a taekwondo national champion, I think, when I was 19 or 20. But all the while, when he's waxing lyrical about all this bullshit nobody cares about, of course, because Bryan's ego is the size of God, Brendan looks so uncomfortable. Brendan is squirming and wriggling like a worm in his seat. He folds his top lip over his bottom lip because he's so triggered and he's so uncomfortable. He's twisting his head and he's pretending to stretch like he's uncomfortable. He's putting his legs on the table. Dirty bastard, by the way. He's doing all these things, and I'm not a body language expert. So people in the comments, right, who are just going to be like, who the fuck does this bald guy know? Number one, I don't claim to be a body language expert. Number two, it's clear as day he's uncomfortable. He's clear as day he's uncomfortable, because the reality is this: if you've watched even 5% of their career on that podcast, you can clearly see that Brendan dislikes and feels uncomfortable when Bryan Callen talks about anything related to sport and any type of achievement. Essentially, Brendan Schaub sees Bryan Callen as lower than him, less than him, and less superior than him in any sporting achievement or accolade he's ever had. That's the reality, because Brendan, of course, was a top 10 UFC heavyweight about 10 years ago at one point in his career. Okay, Brendan had a cappuccino with the Buffalo Bills, whoever the fuck it was, which means essentially a short stop there. He didn't get drafted or whatever. And he thinks he's this, you know, alpha top dog athlete. The thing is, though, he won't do it to a proper athlete, past and present. So someone who has, you know, won high things in sport, currently or in the past, because he respects them, because Brendan is an athlete and he respects athletes. But because Bryan's not technically an athlete and he was never a professional athlete, he can't have ever won anything ever in his life, not even in high school. It doesn't count, because Brendan sees him as less than him. It's so obvious what he's doing, and there's such a contrast where Brendan will suck balls of anybody who's achieved a modicum of success in the sporting world, but Bryan can't do that. And he's just so insecure at doing it. And it's so funny watching his body language squirm like a worm. And he's pretending to stretch, and he's just so uncomfortable. And if that's your best friend, I don't know anybody who would act. I would never act that way to my best mates. To be so jealous and insecure. I'd be asking questions. I'd be like, all right, cool. Like, fucking hell. What else did you do? And the problem is, Brendan he wanted to answer the question, but he also wanted to move on from the conversation. He was so uncomfortable because in his head, he's like, Bryan can't achieve these. He's not even on my level. This is ridiculous. So, you know, it's going to get to the point where he's going to keep talking about Boss D&T and how successful they are. And we're all fed up with the baseball conversations. Starting the show with the baseball shit. No one gives a shit about it, you know. It's nice that he's doing things with his kids, but no one gives a shit about starting your introduction of fucking literally every show for about 10 minutes about Boss D&T's long-ass baseball days in the Texas heat, not getting home until 10 o'clock at night. Like, dude, you chose to live there. You chose to move to Texas because Papa Rogan's over there. You know, you didn't want to be alone. All for a podcast that's on its arse and it's dying. So yeah, insecure Brendan scriggling around like a little worm, unhappy that Bryan achieved something. He just sees him as less superior than him, and that's basically their relationship. When it comes to comedy, though, Bryan's a savant, right? Because Brendan's not competitive in that realm in any facet. What we talking? What we doing here, B?